Well, if you're a Macintosh user, then this video will probably be a trip down memory lane for you. Hello everybody, and welcome back to yet another video. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is, we're going to be taking this iMac right here, that's currently my bedroom media center TV, and putting Snow Leopard on it, making it a nice retro iMac media center experience. So, what is this iMac? This is a 2008 aluminum iMac. It has the maximum 4GB of RAM, a Core 2 Duo CPU, a 256GB SSD, and an ATI Radeon HD 2600 graphics card. I got this about 2 years ago at the recycling center, the Katrina Mygate Recycling Center in Stamford. It was in the TV shed with a bunch of other e-waste, and I'd say this was my best find from that e-waste center yet. So it's currently running OS X Mavericks, which is it's a nice operating system. However, it's just not as skeuomorphic as older versions of OS X because I'm just going to show you guys an example. Like in the calendar, right here, it's not as skeuomorphic. This definitely looks like iOS 7 100%. So what we want is something a lot more skeuomorphic. So that's why we're going to be installing macOS Snow Leopard, iLife and iWork 2011, the Arctic Fox web browser, and a bunch of weird old Snow Leopard applications on here. So we're going to be making a bootable USB of Snow Leopard. I already have a DMG ready to go, so let's do that. So now we're at the computer and we're going to make this bootable USB. So I already have a DMG downloaded from the Internet Archive. We're just going to plug the USB into the computer and we're going to make this USB using disk utility. So while we do this, I'm just going to tell you guys, what even is this macOS X Snow Leopard? So it was a version of macOS X released in 2009, obviously. This could be considered one of the best versions of macOS because you know why? Firstly, there's a mantra of, quote, no new features, which basically meant that most improvements were under the hood. So, examples such as Grand Central Dispatch, which basically allowed the use of multi-core CPUs such as the Intel Core 2 Duo, Core Duo, and early Intel Core i-series CPUs, such as the early Nehalem CPUs and Sandy Bridge CPUs, to use all dual-core or quad-core CPUs, basically to leverage the processing power for specific apps such as, well, iWork, iMovie, iTunes, most of the iLife apps. Also, it introduced QuickTime X, which is currently the new screen recording thing in basically almost every version of macOS, completely redesigning the user interface. Also, it brought a beautiful UI, just straight up beautiful, shall we say, chef's kiss. And although it may have looked similar to the previous version of macOS X Leopard, it brought another new feature. It completely dropped support for the PowerPC CPUs, transitioning to Intel. And now, with macOS Tahoe completely dropping support for Intel, it's quite ironic that we're installing this. So, we're now going to be flashing this DMG, which I have downloaded here, Snow Leopard install.dmg. So the first thing we need to do is erase this thing as macOS Extended Journaled. So we're just going to select macOS Extended Journaled, and then I think this title could stick. So now we're going to see you guys once that is successfully finished. So now that we finished successfully restoring it, we're now going to be restoring a DMG. So we're going to be selecting the image in our downloads, Snow Leopard install.dmg. This is an 8GB disk image, which is crazy. So you'd probably need two standard sized DVDs. I believe they used a dual layer DVD to use the Snow Leopard installer. So we're going to restore from that, and let's do this. So it's going to take a little while. It's going to mount it. It's going to, mount it as a standard disk image. So this is going to be a pretty fun installation. And you may be asking, why am I doing this? Well, this is for #Marcintosh, which is basically a challenge that myself and some other retro computing creators are doing. For the month of March, we have to talk about a retro Apple computing thing. And in my case, I'm doing Snow Leopard because, you know what? It's possibly a source of nostalgia for plenty of people. So if you have Snow Leopard nostalgia, be sure to drop it in the comments. And this is going to take a little while, so we'll see you guys once it's finally done restoring the DMG. Well, we have some good news. The DMG finished restoring, and I'm sure we remember that big old X. So unfortunately, the macOS X install app does not work. So we're just going to delete the DMG from the computer. And we're now going to just plug the USB into my iMac. And now we're going to boot into it, and we're going to have fun installing it. So the good news is, it did mount on my iMac. So you know what that means? We're going to be saying goodbye to Mavericks. And we're going to be booting into the boot picker. So we're gonna boot into the USB drive on here. So I know I need to hold down the Alt key to like get into the boot picker on here, because we are using a Windows keyboard on this, which is interesting. Okay, I see the mouse flashing, and is it not going into the boot picker? I think it's I'm not sure like if it's Alt or the Control key to get into the boot picker. I was correct, you just need to hold it down. So we're gonna go into Mac OS X install DVD. So we're gonna be seeing, we're gonna just prepare for a lot of space. Like a lot of space, it's crazy. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. I haven't even used this is the only other time I used Snow Leopard was earlier on this machine when I literally had to restore it to Snow Leopard because, well, it was originally running El Capitan and it required me to sign in to download it from the App Store, even in recovery mode, which is odd. So hopefully this goes well, fingers crossed. I'm sure it will because it's booting pretty normally and it showed up on both Mojave and on Mavericks. So we'll see you guys once it's finally there. We see a blue screen, and I'm telling you, we have a lot of space today. Like a lot, it's crazy. So I'm just gonna get the camera adjusted a bit so you guys can see the screen. So this has the old Aqua user interface. Use English for the main language, preparing installation. Fingers crossed this goes well. Set up the installation of Snow Leopard, click continue. Agree? So let's select the disk where you want to install Mac OS X. Oh, I actually can install on the Mavericks disk. So although this is a downgrade, fingers crossed it even allows me to. Oh, that barber pull animation. 44 minutes left, so you know what that means? Cue the time-lapse music. Well, you might be like, why are we at the boot picker again? Well, I forgot to do one thing. I installed Snow Leopard and forgot to wipe the hard disk, so it couldn't even remember my password when I was trying to log in. So we're going to do a nice fresh install of Snow Leopard, starting from scratch. And so that way we're actually going to see the intro video yet again, because, you know why? Because like when you, quote, do that downgrade, it thinks either you're upgrading from Leopard or something, but then it doesn't show the intro video, which I found quite odd. So this time we're going to set it up clean, we're going to wipe the hard disk, and we're going to show an intro video. So we're just going to, well, hopefully it does boot, because it takes a little while, I believe, since we're booting off of USB. Okay, so it's now time to fire up disk utility, and then we're going to see if there's our SSD. So we're going to erase Macintosh HD, and then, well, call it, well, Macintosh HD. So we're just going to erase all the data and reformat the disk. Erase. So unfortunately, we are wiping out the Mavericks partition, but that's not a big worry because we're going to be installing Snow Leopard on this thing, which is nice. So we're going to have a lot of fun doing that, which will be good. Okay, so it's all mounted, so we're just going to close out of that. So to set up the installation of Snow Leopard, click continue. We're going to agree to that. Select the disk where to install Mac OS X. There we go. Mac OS X will be installed on Macintosh HD. Now we can officially cue the time-lapse music up. There we go. Installation finished. So we're gonna restart the computer, and you know what that means? I think it's gonna play the welcome video. So I'm not sure if the music is copyrighted, because if it is, you might not be able to hear the original track. So I'm gonna literally replace it with Crazy Ken from the Computer Clan, his acapella version. That's if YouTube does strike me. So however, I'm gonna be playing it out of the iMac speakers, so hopefully YouTube copyright doesn't find that. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. Oh, I think I see it coming. The blue screen. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, there's that welcome video. I'm sure y'all remember this. Well, I'm not sure if I have to talk over it or not because of copyright. So let me know, I'm sure you guys remember this. I haven't really used Snow Leopard, so I don't really have any experience with this. So, Well, we just had to replace the music because, well, this is a song, and I'm sure it would get easily copyrighted. So here's an acapella cover, courtesy of Crazy Ken from the Computer Clan, of this exact same song. There's that beautiful transition. Don't forget to register. Enjoy your Apple computer. And there we go. Blue screen, and the dock rises from the abyss. So here we go. We got the old iTunes application. Keyboard setup assistant. It's because it's a Windows keyboard. So I'm just using an old Dell keyboard from here. So we're just gonna close out of this. Answer United States. Done. Let's see like what other optional installs are on here. So I can get Xcode working. So we're just gonna remove the Mac OS X installed DVD USB. Now you know what's left. We're just gonna install applications, get a bunch of digital media on here, and we're gonna have some fun with this. Well, now we're back. So most of the apps got installed. We have iWork 09 installed as well as Arctic Fox, but then there's one problem with iLife 11. Well, I'm just gonna plug in the USB drive, and hopefully everything checks out well. So here's the USB stick, and we're gonna show you the problem that we have with iLife 11, because you know what? It's gonna be like this with an erased explorations video, because something typically goes wrong, because basically what happens is, when we try to install iLife 11, it literally just says, oh, something is wrong with the installation, and it doesn't even tell me what it is. So you know what that means? We're gonna have to fire up the terminal and set back the date. So we're gonna do that. Bon appetit. We have the date set to 2011. So let's try to install iLife yet again. Continue. I'm just gonna sell my soul to Apple. Time to install iLife 11. Well, bon appetit. It looks like the trick worked, and we're installing iLife 11. So we'll see you guys once all the software is installed, we're ready to go, and most importantly, the date is set back so we can actually use iLife. Well, we now have iLife 11 installed, as you can see the beautiful icons right there. Well, since now and then, there's been a lot of juicy developments. So, in iTunes, I want to get my media library on here, so I had it all on a flash drive, but it wouldn't show up on this computer because you know why? It was formatted as exFAT, and Snow Leopard did not introduce exFAT support until 10.6.5. So, I had to run software update to get it from 10.6.3 to 10.6.8, and the good news is, we were able to successfully make it there. Also, the problem was with the Arctic Fox browser. Instead, I got Firefox Legacy on here, which is just as good. So, with all these apps installed, you know what that means. It's time to give this thing a test drive. So, what we're going to get started with is multimedia usage. So, you know what that means? We're not just going to use iTunes, we're going to be using Front Row. And I'm sure many of us remember this. So, this is basically Apple's 10-foot user interface for the desktop. If you had it as a multimedia computer like I do, you could like sit on your couch and control it. So, you know what that means? Let's start with some movies. Unfortunately, the only videos I have on here, well, I can't play any movies. So instead, we got a couple YouTube videos on here offline. So, you know what that means? We're going to queue up some dank pods on here. So, let's see what we have. We also have some Action Retro. Let's try Action Retro because you know what? This is the clip of him installing Linux on this exact same iMac. It's the same model, not the exact computer. So, it actually is playing pretty good, but you may be asking, where's the audio from? Well, the audio is coming from my Bose 321 sound system. So, you know what that means? We're gonna crank it up. So, let's see how those speakers sound in some dialogue. Oh, they sound pretty good, shall we say. And it fills the bedroom even better. And then look, there's our exact iMac. How funny. So, although this is a much lower quality because these were originally meant for my iPod, not to be played on like this full-fat desktop UI. So, now with the movies done, so you know what that means? We're gonna try with some music. So, copyright-free tracks, let's give it a try. So, let's try everybody's favorite song, Scarlet Fire. Oh, it sounds pretty good. It even plays out of both speakers, which is nice. And then you even have like the album art over here. So I'd say that looks pretty good. Now it's Scarlet Fire done. Let's try with something a little bit more extreme, shall we say. So although you guys may not know of this song, but I've used it on my other channel. It's called Dual Emulation by Lilith of Exile. So it's an old band from Wiley, Texas that disbanded around like 12 years ago. This song is pretty good, so let's give it a listen on the Bose speakers. And unfortunately, it is like one of the weird like early Beatles style recordings where it plays out of one speaker and then the other. Like, so let's see how it sounds. Okay, sounds pretty good. So let's close out of that. And there we go. That's a quick little demo of Front Row for you guys. So, you know what's next? We're now going to try with some web browsing. So, I have Firefox Nightly installed on this machine. Although it is an old browser, because I couldn't get Arctic Fox working, let's give this a try. So, let's start with our usual benchmark, YouTube. Well, to give it a whirl for its money, we're going to be testing with our friend Steve from Mac84's video about the VCF swap meet, the last one I went to. And there's going to be some news about that one, so stay tuned. So let's see how Firefox Nightly does with YouTube performance. So there go the speakers, pretty good. Now let's try going full screen. Hopefully it doesn't get mad over this. So it is pinwheeling, which is pretty typical. So my guess is it's just like indexing Spotlight or whatever it's doing. That's my guess. So we got the video playing, so now let's just try cranking up the resolution. It's currently at 480p. Let's try going to 1080p. Let's try going to 1080p HD. So let's see how that goes. Well, unfortunately, it's not doing well at 1080p. Now let's try 720p. So hopefully it does a little bit better because, well, 720p actually looks pretty good because if you find watching 720p videos, it's perfect. Now let's try a lighter YouTube client, Invidious. Okay, so we got Invidious going. I think Invidious is definitely a lot lighter than YouTube is. So we're going to be watching possibly like my most popular video on this channel, which is going to be the iPad 2 in 2025 video. And there we are. I can't believe how many views that video's gotten. It's absolutely wild. It just blows my mind because this video was literally filmed before I had to go to church. And so that means I was literally on a time crunch to film this. So let's see how it does with Invidious. Well, now that we have it queued up, I tried a different Invidious instance, the Nadeko.net Invidious. So let's see how that does because I know like YouTube, YEWTube, not YouTube OU, because that one has a little bit more issues with like, well, loading videos. Well, unfortunately, it's freezing on the screen, so let's just say Invidious does not work. Now, let's try yet another website. Let's try the Vintage Computer Federation, vcfed.org, possibly like one of the most important websites for retro computing. So, let's see how it does. So we got VCFED pulled up. Let's go to the swap meet page, VCF swap meet. Vendor registration available soon. Just a friendly reminder, if you or someone who's watching is going to be selling here, check this because they're going to have a vendor registration up soon. I'm going to be there, so I can't wait for that. So, now that we have that all done, I'd say web browsing, it basically just depends on the websites you use. Now, what's left? Productivity. So, let's try with good old iWork. So, you have to register it because in that time you weren't able to get iWork to, because you couldn't just download it from the App Store. Unfortunately, it looks like iWork, I have to set the date and time back. So maybe we could try it in the future. Oh, welcome to Pages. So we're just gonna close out of that. Oh, you actually bypass that and we can create a new document. That's pretty good. And it runs pretty well. And then there's actually a lot more. iWork 09 had a lot more templates than than the current iWork. So let's see what templates they have. We're just gonna pick a random one. Let's see, a lesson flyer. We want to learn guitar together, so let's just try typing something. So this is a test. This is a test. Perfect. iWork 09 is actually really good for document editing. Let's not save this because I doubt I'll be doing any document editing on here. So, you know what that means is left? iLife. So let's fire up iMovie and run it through its paces. And well, you know what? We already did that because even though you may have been watching for the longest time, this entire video was edited on iMovie 09, uploaded on this very iMac, and edited on this very iMac. Can you believe it? We have officially run Snow Leopard through its paces. Well, it's quite ironic. Now, with the big bomb revealed, let's just give it a couple more runs for its money. Let's take a look at the old photo booth. So, there we go. You can see there's my hand and this awful iMac camera. So, I think you can actually go full screen on this thing. I'm not sure if you can because it actually has like this really old nostalgia, like this really old photo booth-esque UI. So, we're just gonna close out of that. Let's just take a look at like some of the other apps we have on here. We got the dashboard. I think it has like that pegboard-like UI if you want to like pin some stuff up. No, that came in later Mac OS. iChat, basically the predecessor for FaceTime. I doubt iChat even works anymore because it literally relied on my Google Talk because, again, iChat, it's gone. So, let's wrap the video up right there by saying happy Marcintosh. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, watch, and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.